to another week of our series, Mastering Classroom Management by Design for the Primary Teachers. We are up to, I think this is week 8, 9, I don't know, something like that. So if you've missed any previous weeks, go ahead back, rewatch them. They will all be linked in the post here, so you have access to them. But start at the beginning, work your way through the process. It's all designed as a Lego style process to get you set up for success this school year. Okay, so this week, if you don't know me, I'm Lauren Zbig, and I'm the founder of Lesson Plan Toolbox. I have been in education for well over 20 years. I went from struggling with classroom management for my first 5 years to actually thriving with classroom management, becoming assistant principal where I was pretty much dealing with behavior day in and day out, and even getting granted master teacher status through the state of Ohio, which is pretty awesome. I can tell you though, after 20 some years in the classroom, I understand firsthand the challenges of managing classroom behavior, right? Misbehavior can disrupt the learning environment and completely hinder students' academics and social growth. On top of this phenomenal lesson that you thought you had in place, but a student's behavior is kind of throwing a monkey wrench into that. However, with effective strategies and with consistent consequences, you can address the misbehavior constructively and create this just positive, well-managed classroom. It truly is possible. So in this episode, in this segment, what we're going to explore are going to be advanced techniques for behavior correction. And I think this is going to be hopefully a must-watch. I hope you share this with other teachers because we're going to talk about the importance of that consistency again and just give you a step-by-step activity to develop behavior management in your classroom. Develop this plan so you have it ready to go. My goal for you is by the end of this segment, you will have a comprehensive strategy to use effectively and address those misbehaviors in your classroom. So let's get started. Again, share this with your teacher friends. This is a great episode. Let's get started. We're going to talk about understanding misbehavior first, right? So before we can even attempt to dive into strategies, we have to understand why misbehavior occurs. And I'm sure you know this. Misbehavior can stem from so many different factors, right? These are just some of them that you might want to give attention to. But it could be attention seeking, right? The student might be misbehaving to gain that attention from peers or from teachers. And you would be amazed at how common that one is. Another cause for misbehavior could be avoidance. The misbehavior can just be a way to avoid tasks that they find challenging or just uninteresting. If they're not engaged, they might misbehave. This could be a power struggle. Some students act out because they want to assert their control or challenge authority. That's another big one we're seeing more and more in classrooms right now. And then another one, and this one breaks my heart, but it's unmet needs. Misbehavior could very well indicate unmet emotional, social, or physical needs. So those are just all things to keep in mind, the 4 general topics that misbehaviors fall under. So now we can give you some of the strategies that you can try to implement for behavior correction. Last week, we focused on positive reinforcement. Hopefully you saw that episode. So that's going to be our first one. You want to catch them being good. Give them a positive reinforcement. Focus on those positive behaviors and reinforce them with praise or rewards. Again, I was not one to be too big on rewards, but if they truly earned it and if it was a well-deserved act of goodwill, yeah, I would give them. You might just simply say, I love how quietly you are sitting and listening. That is something, just using your words and the power of your words, so amazing. If you use a reward system, you might implement something such as like a sticker chart or classroom currency to encourage that positive behavior, and it's totally up to you. So positive reinforcement is number one. Number two, of course, you know this, it's going to be clear and consistent rules. You want to do this from the get-go. We've talked about this in other episodes, but it's always worth revisiting. Establish your classroom rules together. You want to involve students in creating those classroom rules. Why? Because this promotes the ownership and understanding. Okay? You want to display these rules prominently in the classroom because this ensures that the rules are visible in the classroom and you can refer to them regularly. 1, Rule 2, Rule 3. I personally like to use focus on classroom manners, but you get the idea. Whatever you're using, classroom contract, classroom manners, classroom rules. Focus on the positive. Number 3, we want to be proactive in our classroom management. Structured routine. You want to maintain just that predictable routine to provide stability and reduce opportunities for misbehaviors. You want your students to know what is coming next. If there's a change in schedule, let them know about that. Make a note of it on your calendar, okay? You have to have those engaging lessons. When you are designing engaging and interactive lessons, it's keeping the students focused and interested, which is going to diminish behavior. If they're busy doing something, they're not busy misbehaving. Keep that in mind. Next up, you want to be calm and have an immediate response, right? So no matter what the behavior is, stay calm. Always address the misbehavior calmly and avoid escalating it to the next level. You need to give it an immediate response for the most part. Address the misbehavior as it happens. Why? Because this is going to reinforce the connection between the action being done and the consequences for the action. If you let it sit, they're not going to remember more than likely what they did, why they did it, what they were thinking when they did it. So you want it to be as immediate as you can. Okay, so consistency we know is key here. So let's talk about consistency with consequences. Consistency is key in behavior management across the board. Students need to know that consequences are predictable and they're fair, and they want to have this structure, right? So let's give you some steps to implement consistent consequences effectively. When you do this, your students, I should say before you do this, your students need to know that consequences are going to be a part of the behavior plan. They should be coming up with the rules with you as well as these consequences. Does that make sense? I hope. So it's not just sitting down and discussing, okay, what behaviors do we want to see in the classroom? Let them come up with the consequences too. Your consequences should be defined clearly, okay? Have like a hierarchy of consequences in place. You would develop this clear hierarchy with different levels of misbehavior. So for example, you might just give a simple warning for a minor action, such as somebody talking, interrupting you, right? Maybe a loss of privilege for repeated offenses. You know what? I gave you a warning. Now it's going to be a minute off recess. If the behavior continues or if it's more severe, definitely parent contact. Talk to your administration if need be. Okay? But again, work through that hierarchy. Warning, loss of privilege, parent contact, contact administration. So let's talk about how do we communicate clearly these consequences. Okay? We want to do this as specific and concise as possible. Don't be too wordy, be specific and be concise. But here's the other element. You have to have the follow-through. Ensure that when your consequences are applied consistently, you are doing this for all students. We are not showing favoritism. When you are inconsistent in doing this, this is what leads to the confusion for your students, and this leads to them undermining your authority as the teacher. So keep that in mind. You need to have Clear, concise language, and be consistent and fair. Do not show favoritism. Which is next, actually. Apply consequences fairly, considering individual circumstances without showing favoritism. So you might have behavior plans that you have to adjust and tweak, and we talked about that in previous episodes, which is fine, but make sure everybody is on the same page. You're being concise, consistent, and clear. Okay, next up, you have to allow reflection time. You want to allow students time to reflect on their behavior and understand their impact of their actions. Their actions don't just impact them, it impacts our whole community. And a lot of times you have to literally point that out to them. Restorative practices are a great way to encourage making up for the behavior that was done, right? Making amends for the misbehavior. You are fostering accountability and teaching them empathy. You know what? I probably shouldn't have done this, and here's what I'm going to do to make up for this. Okay? So now you have the background on where the behavior comes from, some strategies to use. Let's talk about what a behavior management plan would look like. So creating this behavior management plan, it helps you stay prepared and be proactive. This is great to bring to an interview. We're going to give you some steps to develop an effective plan. First and foremost, you want to identify the common misbehaviors. How do you do this? Through observation. Simply observe and then just list down on a notebook, paper, or whatever, or even on your phone, any common misbehaviors that you see in your classroom. This is going to help target specific issues in your classroom. It will change throughout the year, and that's okay. It's okay to readjust as you need to. Number 2, we want to set clear rules and expectations, right? When you do this, you want it to be collaborative rule setting. We've talked about this. Involve your students in setting the rules and the consequences so that they're understanding and agreeing with them. It's not just you coming in and saying, this is what we're doing. The ideas are coming from your students. You can guide them to what you want to see, but let them come up with the words. Clear expectations. You clearly need to define what behaviors are expected and what is considered a misbehavior. Student behavior scenario of the day cards, which you can only get inside our membership, are a great way to do this. And then the follow-up with this is you have to have those established consequence system in place, this hierarchy of consequences. They know the behavior, they know what's expected. When consequences need to be issued, this is when you go to that hierarchy of consequences, right? Tailor it to the different levels of misbehavior. First the warning, then repeated offense, loss of privilege, and then parent contact if need be. But let's talk about something positive. That positive reinforcement, right? Make sure when you're developing your plan, you have some type of system or process for focusing on that positive behavior alongside of consequences for the behavior. Okay, so it's kind of like the yin and the yang, right? As much as we want to praise the good, we also need to be aware of the misbehavior. Another element to this whole behavior plan is developing intervention strategies. You might want to focus on implementing strategies to prevent misbehavior such as engaging lesson plans and structured routines. A lot of times, students who are on plans, they need to know times of things. They need to know what their routine is, okay? Responsive strategies would be plan for immediate and calm responses to misbehavior. You, again, would consider consider techniques like consequences such as verbal warnings, timeouts, and restorative conversations. That might be very new to students where you're teaching them remediation strategies, basically. Huge component, works so well though. And honestly, if the student does a misbehavior, 9 out of 10 times when it comes to restorative action, they feel so much better about themselves because they just made up for their behavior. The fifth element when you're doing your plan is obviously keeping parents informed. We want to keep the parents informed about the behavior management plan and their child's behavior. When you are working with parents, do not think of it like it's them versus you or them versus, the school. Think of it as a partnership. Work with parents to address the ongoing behavioral issues. And then reinforce the positive behaviors at home. Talk to them about reinforcing them at home. That's just as important. Odds are if you're seeing the behavior at school, it's probably also happening at home. And then, of course, in this whole scheme of things, we want to take time to review and adjust accordingly. We've talked about this in the past. But you have to have this ongoing assessment, basically, where you are regularly assessing the effectiveness of your behavior management plan. You can do this with you yourself and involve your students with this also. Be flexible. Adjust the plan as needed based on what works and what doesn't. Try not to be too headstrong. Be willing to make movements and tweaks as you see fit, okay? Right now, and this might be easier to read than listen to, but I'm going to kind of give you a week-long plan for addressing misbehavior in a classroom. So day one is setting the foundation, okay? You're going to do this through morning meeting. During morning meeting, you will discuss the importance of the rules and consequences. Involve students in creating that list of classroom rules. We talked about that. Use your student behavior scenario of the day cards every single day to do this. It is all done for you. You pop it on the screen, have the conversation. We even give you suggestions for consequences. If you want to make this interactive, even more so, depending on age, have students create posters showing the behavior. Even with the little ones, they have some idea of what misbehavior looks like. Have them create a poster and then hang them in your classroom. That way it's coming from them. The onus is a part of them. Day two, you're going to establish your consequences. Again, this can happen through a discussion where you explain the hierarchy of consequences and positive reinforcement. You might do some role playing of scenarios to just demonstrate the different levels of consequences. From the minor, I'm just talking out, to the pushing, the shoving, more severe behaviors, which are going to have more severe consequences. Role playing is great because they can see what's happening. Day three, you're going to focus on proactive strategies. This is going to be your structured routine. Review during morning meeting the daily schedule and discuss how those routines maintain order. This is why we do this in this process every day. Let them know the why. They're going to give you more buy-in. And then again, this is that element where you need to have those engaging lesson plans. It doesn't have to be knock it out of the park every single lesson, but you definitely want to make sure you are involving the students in every lesson. There's student participation. It's not just you talking. Okay, so next up, let's talk about some calm response techniques. You want to teach your students about staying calm. Discuss how you will address misbehavior calmly and immediately, but you also want to model that for them, okay? How do you do this? Teach them calming techniques. This would involve that deep breathing, counting to 10. There are so many different strategies on YouTube. It might just be turning the lights off and just taking a 2-minute calm, quiet classroom reset. That's okay to do that. On day 5, you're going to have reflection and focus on reflection and restorative practices, okay? So reflection time is when you are going to allow time for your students to reflect on their week. Discuss what they did well, and then also focus on what they can improve, no matter what. It could be academic, it could be behavior. Behavior, to me, sometimes outweighs the academics. And then have those restorative conversations. This is where they're going to learn how to do this. You simply facilitate the conversation where students apologize and make amends for misbehavior. Role-playing is another great way to do this. But then when it comes down to it, you're going to say, okay, this is when we need to say our apologies and we need to acknowledge our behavior. And then do something to make it better. All in all, addressing misbehavior effectively requires a combination of clear communication, consistent consequences, and proactive strategies, right? By understanding the root cause of the misbehavior and setting those clear expectations and developing just that comprehensive behavior management plan, this is going to allow you as a teacher to create this just well-mannered classroom. Just a well-mannered classroom. And I think so much that's what society is missing, is just people with good manners. So that's the whole focus, our whole goal of this, right? Use the week-long plan to implement these strategies and watch your classroom transform. You can do this week after week after week if you need to. You're going to know through your intuition, okay? The consistency and your calm responses are going to be key to maintaining and fostering that respectful and engaging learning environment. You don't want to go off the deep end, and trust me, I know it can be really, really hard not to, and sometimes you just will, and that's okay. That's when you set the example and the restorative practices fall on you and say, boys and girls, you know what? Yesterday this happened in our classroom, and I know that I lost my temper a little bit, and I feel bad that happened, and I apologize. However, I also know that we can do better. So today we're going to focus on doing better. You're going to do better with your behaviors, and I'm going to do better at responding to behaviors in our classroom. All of this being said, I promise you, when you are talking about these behaviors and literally having the onus come from your students, and it's not just you being that authoritative figure, you are going to really see fewer and fewer misbehaviors in your classroom. Inside our community, we really get into helping teachers through a 4-question system. We really get into addressing specific needs that our teachers have. This is just like a general scope and sequence of how do you get started with behavior management, and those would be the steps that I would strongly suggest you work through, especially if this is very new to you or if you are a teacher who struggles with classroom management every single year. Get these steps in place, follow the week-long plan, and again, do it week after week after week. Yes, you will feel like a broken record. I promise you, you will feel like a broken record. But if you do this for the first 6-8 weeks of school, come November and the holiday craziness that always happens every year, your students are going to know what's expected of them. And even though all these tweaks and changes are happening in their schedule, they're going to be on point with you because they know what is expected. And they have the buy-in, and they know that you are consistent, that even if we have something different in our schedule, I still need to behave this way. Because if I don't, these are my consequences. Consistency. Clear, concise, consistent. Okay, I have so much going on through Lesson Plan Toolbox. So excited. If you are not already in our Mastering Classroom Management Success Challenge, it's a 5-day challenge where you simply are going to work through things at home. It's focusing on your vision and getting your plan in place, things like this. It's a 5-day challenge. It's all free, prizes galore, cannot even tell you, but we're going to implement that this year starting, in just a few days. July 29th it kicks off. We'll do 5 days there, and then I am so excited about this, I cannot even tell you. We are bringing back our Teach from the Inside Out series, which is better than ever, focusing on the mind-body connection for both teacher and student, and then embracing it all through classroom management and bringing all those pieces together. And here is what is even more amazing. When you sign up for the Teach from the Inside Out 3-day master class, you are also going to receive 1 year inside our lesson plan toolbox membership just for joining and being a part of this process. We've tweaked it. We've gone through it with teachers before. They've loved it. And we've taken their feedback, made it even better. And now we are ready to set up as many teachers as possible with the Teach from the Inside Out mind-body connection as far as behavior management, classroom management in your classroom. So excited to offer that to you. More details to come on that. Everything will be linked in either the blog post if you read the blog post or in the YouTube link if you are watching this on YouTube. Okay, I am going to say so long for now until next week. Again, share this with teacher friends, especially if you are a new teacher, a mentor teacher, or just a teacher bestie who has a friend who wants to improve their classroom management. So much to come, so excited. And yeah, we will be back next week with a brand new episode. And I think, don't quote me on this, I think next week is when we start to shift into more of the mind-body connection right here in our YouTube world blog. Okay, again, I'm Lauren Spiegel. I'm the founder of Lesson Plan Toolbox. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for the value you are placing in education. I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe primary teachers have the most impactful job in the whole wide world, whether you are here in the United States or anywhere in the world. Your impact that you make on your students is just, there are no words for how amazing it is. So thank you for being here. Thank you for finding us, and reach out to us if you have any questions. I switched up my name on Instagram. We were at Lesson Plan Toolbox. I'm now using at Classroom Management for Primary, so that would be us. And you can always find me on at lessonplantoolbox.com or email me. It might be the easiest. Lesson Plan Toolbox, all one word, 44119 @gmail.com. I'll say it one more time. Lesson Plan Toolbox, all one word, 44119 @gmail.com. Okay, I am done talking. Thanks for being here, and we will see you next week.